We are here again for our secondary episode
Yes,
of
that is
OK
correct.
Podcasts. Oh, Podcasts with Buddy Pippo. I did it.
Yep,
I said it
really
correctly.
nailed it. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, man. I'm proud of you.
Well, thank you.
Well, if you want to go ahead and take the lead on this one, kind of talk about what we're going to be talking about first, the first half of the podcast.
Okay, so first we're going to be talking about a movie called MFKZ. It is an animated film um, about a weird-looking kid named Angelino
Yep.
who has a friend who's just like a skeleton with his head on fire and lives in what do you call that? Like the the barrios? Is that I don't know, like
I
what
would
do you
say he just
call it?
lives in the hood. He lives in the
Yeah.
ghetto.
Um, but uh things he has an accident after seeing a beautiful girl and getting hit by a truck
As we all
and
tend
some
to do.
yeah, and sort of starts unlocking some hidden powers he didn't know that he had while being chased by a shadowy secret agent force. Um,
There's
and yeah, I
spoilers for
mean that
this movie, by the way.
yeah. I mean that's it's not too deep into the movie that he starts getting chased by.
No, I'm just saying we are
Oh,
going
you're saying
to
we will
spoil the
talk
shit out of
spoilers.
this movie.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so a movie I it's a movie that
Should edit the
I know is
tags.
a bad movie, but I also really like it a lot. Um, I got the impression before stream that you maybe were not quite quite as enchanted with it as I am, but yeah, I mean, this was your first time seeing it, so
It was.
yeah.
Well, before I say my thing, I'm curious because you say you know it's a bad movie. I want you to say why you know it's a bad movie. Because I don't necessarily I don't know if it's a bad movie or not. I want to hear what you have to say since you're the daddy of this movie.
I'm, I'm the daddy of this movie. Oh, okay. So, well, um, I can explain why I think it's a bad movie, but I feel like that's maybe jumping to like some bigger things that I think are worth a discussion of, um, in terms of like the flaws with the movie are an interesting thing to talk about. So I can just say them if you want, but
Okay, I'll go ahead and pull the curtain back. I did not think it was a very good movie. It's not
yeah,
a terrible movie, and the art is amazing. Like that's like
yeah.
because I don't know if we're gonna spend much time talking about it because it's good. It's just good. It's pretty pictures that don't make a lot of sense, but
So I actually think I have some interesting things to say about it, specifically because we talked off stream about juxtaposing this movie with Spider-Man Enter the Spider-Verse.
correct.
And I think there are some interesting things specifically about the visual art components of both of those movies.
Okay,
Um, but yeah, we can get to that when we get to it.
sounds good. I think the biggest issue with this movie, which is going to be weird because we're two white dudes, is the way that I need to look something up. I meant to double check this about if anyone who is a writer or creative involved in this movie was
Yeah,
was black because
I've definitely have a lot of issues with it in that sense where like I don't think that it's trying to be hateful,
holy shit, was
but I
this partially directed by one of the co-founders of Run DMC?
maybe so the
No.
I
Okay.
if I'm remembering correctly, the artist it's based on a comic book which was written by a French artist, and I don't know much about him.
Okay.
Um, but yeah,
Okay.
I
Based
mean, like I definitely agree that there are some troublesome things going on with the way that it's depicting um, both Mexican people and black people.
It's just that like this is what I feel like I'm gonna talk about most is like the first part is like the city they live in is called Dark Meat City.
Yeah, and I don't understand what that even is supposed to mean. It doesn't seem good though.
Like the two things, one was an interesting thing I read on the internet, but the first thing that hit me is they're like it's called Dark Meat City because it's where the black people live, and I was just like,
It's not though, isn't that's like where all the Mexican people live. Like that hood that he starts out in is not where it's not like the Black Hood.
I guess that's true, but I mean there are black people there. There are quite a bit
Yeah,
when he's walking around, but I mean like if we're getting this is weird to talk about because of the diversity of our channel, but
yeah,
that I guess you could say Hispanic people are also dark meat because they're not white. But
yeah. I
that,
mean, I guess we could have answered some of these questions just by looking up who the artist who wrote the original was. Um,
but I
but
was trying to look up who he was, and I couldn't find
hmm,
KZ comic.
yeah.
Let's see. Oh, excuse me. But
I guess it seems to me like it's a movie that's very interested in the aesthetics and in the stereotypes of those cultures, and it
mm,
plays them up in ways where I think it's doing that because it's interested in them and it finds them entertaining, but I don't think it understands them enough to be able to um like maturely handle them, and so it does not read well at all.
yeah, and I will say nothing about the movie really. After I kept watching it, it didn't feel like it came from a place of hate.
Yeah,
It more felt
I
like
agree.
it came from a place of like gleeful
Ignorance.
ignorance, exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
But ignorance can still be damaging
yeah. I would agree.
because I
Like
can't.
I
Oh, sorry.
I think if we're looking at the movie in a vacuum, like if you're someone who has no idea what races are and you see this movie, like and that's your only point of understanding, then it gives you a very bad impression.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Because
but
I can't think of one black person in the movie that showed up that wasn't like a gangbanger.
yeah, um, that's probably true. But I mean, like almost everyone in the movie though is
Well, because
like,
that's a good point. They're all kind of everyone's kind of shitty,
yeah,
but you have I wouldn't say Vin's is shitty. I would say Vin's is a normal good person.
yeah, and I think Angelino is too. I mean,
Angelino, I
he's
think, which I want to talk
secretly
about next, has his own race issue problem that has to do with his weird superpowers that he gets.
okay.
And
Yeah,
there's the luchadors, which I want an entire movie about the luchadors that are really underground protector of society that just trained by doing lucha libre on television. That was the coolest part of the whole movie. I want
yeah.
that where they were
That was
sorry.
I. I thought they were like a fun idea that did not get appropriately used at all.
Yeah.
Um,
Because I don't know. They were cool. And then there I was like I say the other good person was like the white doctor who kind of gets out at the
he's like
end.
barely a character, but
Yeah,
yeah.
it's that's just the
Um,
thing, but
yeah, I mean, I guess even though we don't see the like physical races of Angelino or Vince or even Willie because they're just like cartoon characters, I feel like
mhm.
at the very least Angelino and Vince have what I would say is probably not in terms of like the way that they talk, they don't have the inflections of white people. They read to me as fitting into the world that they're a part of, if that makes sense.
Well, I don't
Like
know what you mean inflections of white people, like
the way
stereo,
that they talk, I guess.
like they don't sound like inner city, like the stereotypical lower education people. Which
Um
which
Yeah, I
are
don't know.
often like gangbanger black people. But like when I lived in Syracuse, there were white people who just talked like that too.
Yeah,
So they didn't sound like
that's true.
thuggy
I guess I'm
people.
just saying though, like in the world of a movie, a lot of times a director is kind of relying on things that they're assuming that you will read out of something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like we don't have solid evidence to say what race they are, but I feel like the intention of the creator is probably that they would read as being black or Mexican. But
That's I
I
got
could be
Vin's
wrong.
is probably closer to being Mexican, mainly because of the skull
Yeah.
aesthetic being like the Dia de los Muertos thing. But talking about Lino, is we know Lino's mom is white.
Did she read as white to you?
Yes,
She didn't look white to me, but
she's either
um,
white or very like light tanned Hispanic.
that's what I had assumed.
But his skin color is black, so
Yeah.
he is so that overwhelming blackness comes from the dad, who
Yeah.
is the machos, which is a thing from a storytelling perspective that needed to show up like first 15 minutes was there's machos and that's a problem instead of doing this weird waiting until the last 15 minutes going there's a race called the machos and they're monsters and they're taking over. That should have.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't even know if it needed to show up earlier, but it's very clumsily handled.
but this
I
I oh sorry.
because we talked earlier about this being a bad movie, and we've talked some about one of the reasons that it's troublesome. But I think the second half of it is also just hilariously badly written,
Yes,
um, in a lot of ways.
there was a lot of dumb shit. But
Yeah.
the thing I was saying about Lino is the thing that makes him a monster comes from the thing that also makes him black.
Hmm.
And
Oh, like the use of black monsters in this particular movie
yes, and
is a very bad optics. That hadn't even occurred to me before, but that's a really good point.
I feel really dumb. I'm just gonna Google who the author is, but like the Invisible Man, which is a very famous.
Isn't it H.G. Wells? I could be remembering that wrong.
N- well,
No?
not that Invisible Man.
Different Invisible Man.
Invisible Man and Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison is a story of a black guy who I mean you don't really have to read that in high school usually.
Hmm.
But in that there's this idea of blackness being like this otherworldly thing in society because that's how much like white society looks at it. It's like you're not even human because of how black
Yeah.
you are. Is that in this that's getting really literary because you brought in books in our last thing when we were talking about stuff. I had to bring books this time.
Yeah.
Is that the thing that makes him what color he is, what associates him with black and the gangster stuff, is also what literally makes him a killing machine and
Yeah.
a danger to everyone around him. And at the end of the movie, he is literally fighting against his own blackness to not
Yeah.
to fit in and not be a murder machine in society.
I definitely don't think that's the intention of the movie,
I know, but I
but
just want to feel
I
smart.
definitely get that read. Like that read, like, yeah. I think that's a fair criticism of that as being at least like an unintended thing that someone could very easily read into it.
Yes, I think this needed a much more diverse input creative team, like people who were from like I don't think anyone involved in this grew up in the ghetto.
Yeah. I feel like the one person who maybe might have is the original author,
I
but
can't
again, we know
find
nothing about
him.
him. So
Like I've been trying
yeah,
to find him.
he's just a mystery.
Which he's an
Which
invisible man.
it's really a shame, but I think that um, it's like weird to use this word, but it's sort of I think that the reasons that this movie is bad isn't because it's hateful, but it's cultural appropriation.
Mm.
But it's not like in this instance, it's a French guy and then a Japanese animation studio who are culturally appropriating what I would say are pretty American and also like South American cultures
Mm-hmm.
that they don't seem to really know a lot about, but they are very interested in the aesthetics of.
Like I've noticed that a lot of weird, like over the top, quirky Japanese things, especially take an interest in the lucha libre aesthetic.
Yeah.
Like Suda 51 has like a luchador in almost everything that he makes. Or like Killer 7 guy who could deflect bullets by headbutting them.
Yeah. I feel like I need to learn more than I know about uh, Lucha Libre.
I just don't that fuck, what is that guy's name? There was some wrestler who wears a silver mask who is like a cultural icon. And
Yeah.
he was like back when it got really big in like the 50s, and he never took his mask off, and there's no like pictures of him with his mask off, and he basically could like have run for president of the country and won.
I was like thinking through my mind for other animes that had lucha characters, and then it finally hit me that Space Dandy has an episode with
Space
that.
Dandy,
Yeah,
Ultimate Muscle.
which I haven't seen.
Thought that was like that was when we were like little kids.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen so many things where like masked wrestlers show up in anime. Even like I watched
Yeah.
some of the new Pokemon show because I heard it was good. And, like there's just a character of I forget what his name is, but he's a masked Pokemon wrestler, and it's just like oh. But I guess I've played a lot of Japanese video games that are weird that have luchadors.
Yeah.
But anyway,
I don't remember one being in the Yakuza game that I played part of, but
which
I
one did
would
you
not
play?
be even like moderately surprised if one had showed up.
Which one did you play?
Zero?
Uh, shit. Wait. Yes, Zero. There are luchadors if you go to the
Okay.
underground fighting ring. They are
I had a feeling they'd be somewhere in there.
they are some of the top tier bosses are luchadors. Because there wasn't any in 6, which I finished not too long ago. There weren't any luchadors in that one.
Yeah.
But anyway, like one of the things we're talking about appropriation because I saw on the internet is a Dark Meat City. The initials are DMC, and a lot of people were thought that was in reference to Detroit Motor City, because that's a place of racial turmoil here. Where
that would make a lot of sense.
But I don't know
if it was like something like that they were going for.
But my biggest disappointment is you showed me the trailer before we watched it, and that got me really hyped for how like the movie would go. Like this is no more on like issues of race. This is just the movie being kind of shitty.
Yeah.
Is from the trailer that I watched, like the character I was most excited about was Agent Crocodile, because his name is Agent Crocodile.
Yeah. Do you know what his first name is?
No.
I just like accidentally found out what it was. The other day when I was Googling around doing a little of my own research. His name is Randy Crocodile. And I don't know why, but that's such a dumb name.
Oh, okay. I was like, I thought you were gonna say he was gonna be like, in a while, Crocodile, and I'm gonna be like, no, that's dumb. But because they honestly, I think, show my favorite scene from the movie is like near the end when it's just doing the series of still images that are like really well detailed, where it shows like Crocodile like up on the thing threatening the owner of the like the little taco stand, and those were really good. And that's how it introduced Crocodile, because like boom, it's like Agent Crocodile, and the way, if I remember, the trailer was cut, it makes it look like Agent Crocodile is actually like an I'm trying to think of, like, he's an uneasy ally of Lino. He makes it look like he's on their side, because it looks like he's helping them escape the gangbangers at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
So I was expecting, so when I started watching the movie, I was expecting the whole time for him to like turn coat and be like, I'm Agent Crocodile, let's be good, or something, and then he's just an insane asshole that just is a dick the whole movie, and is voiced by the dude from The Shield. And it was just like, oh.
Yeah, they could have done some better stuff with him.
Shakespeare was also kind of a waste of a character, in my opinion.
Yeah, I liked that he showed back up at the end.
That was cool, but also didn't make any fucking sense. Like,
it didn't, yeah. Well, it doesn't make sense, and it also so like for me, the end is like one of the weakest parts of the movie
Hmm.
because I would say there's like two big or two sort of main narrative conflicts going on. One of which is like machos are plotting to destroy the world, and the other of which is Crocodile is trying to kill Angelino.
Hmm.
And like both of those plots get resolved by tertiary characters because
Are
like
you
the
calling a helicopter a character?
yeah, I mean, um, oh wait, that guy's Crocodile.
Are you thinking of the
I
Danny Trejo character?
Yeah, I
That's
thought white suit
Maccabee.
guy was Crocodile.
No,
Okay,
Crocodile is like the white dude detective who gets the big Barrett 50 cal at the end, which was also
gotcha.
another cool
That was
scene,
a really cool scene. Yeah,
only because of the gun. But yeah, him. Like
yeah.
I thought he was going to be a good guy in the movie, and he was
Oh,
like the
gotcha.
off the handle like Mel Gibson lethal weapon insane cop who was supposed to be helping them figure out what was happening. And I was all excited for that, but no, it's just white people chasing after the ethnic kids trying to murder them the whole movie because no reason.
Yeah. Well, because of dumb macho reason, but
Like I can't like they're like kill him like no we need him alive. Okay, we'll kill these ones. No, alive. Oh, what are you drinking? Got some Monster.
yep,
Nice. I'm excited. Reese's is gonna have a 3 for 2 bang energy drink sale this weekend. I'm gonna stack up for Mad Gaming.
nice.
But yeah, so he gets crushed by a helicopter. Oh, you're talking about
Yeah, I was talking about
how Shakespeare shoots Trejo's character in the face, and then everyone else
yeah.
shoots him everywhere
hmm
else.
So yeah, like Angelino never deals with either of the big like narrative dilemmas are both solved by other characters.
I,
Um,
I mean, I think he addresses like a third issue, which was the not sacrificing, figuring out who he was, sort of thing, and he's
yeah,
like, I'm not a monster, so
he
he let.
deals with that conflict, but I feel like it's the way it's written is so weak that it like hardly reads as a conflict.
Yes, and
Yeah.
one thing I do appreciate during that scene is when he's getting the shit kicked. Leno's getting the shit kicked out of him. Is when he just flips out for just a second and grabs Maccabee with his tentacles, and then Maccabee starts to panic, but then Leno lets him go, and they both just kind of sit and stare
Yeah.
at each other for a little bit. Where it's like Leno could
Yeah.
just kill him if he wanted.
That's what's so disappointing about this movie is that it has some like things like that work so well and then it just like fucks up in so many other places. Um
But just, the also the line there was like, "My heart's getting cold again." I was like, "Shut up, just die." Like I don't, like at the end of the movie, like it's funny thinking about Shakespeare is like the whole like the traditional definition of a Shakespearean comedy is it ends with a wedding and a return to the status quo,
yeah.
whereas a drama ends with a funeral and then uncertain futures. Is this ends with not a wedding because no one gets married, because everyone's dead or in jail. But it ends
Or
with like,
has just like fucked off into who knows where.
but it just ends with nothing of any importance at the end. They're just like, "Yep, we're still in our shitty apartment.
Yeah.
Cool." And I'm just like,
Yeah, I was like taking notes on that. Like that climatic final fight happens and then there's just like sad music playing
because his
while they're
heart was
like
getting cold.
yeah. And then he's just writing a character to his one true love who he's talked to like twice.
The only thing that would have made me flip shit harder is when he threw the plane out the window. If it somehow like hit her in the hair or something and she found it, that would have been the only thing that I would have been like, "What the hell?" Also, I'm
Yeah.
furious that there was not a single drop kick in that entire movie that had at least 6 luchadors in it.
Yeah. I do feel like it has some pretty good action scenes though.
Yes.
Like I really, really love that first scene where their apartment is getting raided.
Mm-hmm.
the way that like the music syncs up with the shots and the action, and just like everything about it is so good. I get so hyped every time I'm seeing it.
One thing I was kind of confused by now you bring up that scene is I really like the part where he jumps up with the revolver and like point blanks that SWAT dude in the face, and
Yeah.
then he sees under his face that Frankenstein. Yeah, we do need more Frankensteiners. Um, they did the head scissors, but he sees under the mask that it's his face reflected back. So it's like
Oh, I thought it was not his face.
it was like half of like Lino's face. It was a black him with the huge one eye was what's under the mask.
So I guess the way I had always read that scene is that it's not that it's Lino's face, it's that it's another macho.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's a macho, but the thing that confused me is that from what I understood from the movie, the reason Lino looks the way he is because he's a hybrid.
Yeah.
And then they're like, we don't do that. And then you learn that the other girl's also a hybrid. So the thing that confused me was like, wait a minute. So are all of the police hybrid machos?
Well, because I thought Danny Trejo's character was also a hybrid.
No, he's a human. He gets called a human many times. Even the
Well,
boss like shits on him for being a human near the end. He's like, you humans don't understand what it means to value your own people's lives.
I guess what I had imagined was that he was like a more human than macho hybrid, and so that's why he was getting shit on for that. But maybe not.
Also, the girl's dad did that, but had no consequences. Yeah, like that was the other thing is they didn't really delve into the fact that the leader of the machos also fell in love with a woman. I'm assuming that was human and had a baby.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, 'cause
Or
she's a
like
hybrid.
maybe that was from one of their experiments.
That's true, I guess.
'Cause I mean, to me, like it doesn't make any sense that the Trejo character is helping the machos if he isn't at least part macho.
I mean, it does make sense. There's always the like you've played Half-Life 2.
Yeah, it's
Where
been a while.
well the humans are like, well, we know they're a superior power. I'm gonna help them to get in good graces so that when they eventually take over,
I guess that's true.
that's how I took
He
it.
does have the way because his eyes aren't white.
His eyes
Also,
are
I
black,
assume.
which is weird
Yeah.
because in that shot where like the still where Crocodile is like in that thing where it did the trailer shot, he has those black eyes too.
Oh, really?
But and then when he has kidnapped Felix and he's like threatening to kill him over the phone, he has the black eyes in that shot. But then at the end of the movie, when he's Barrett 50 caling into the road, he has normal white eyes again.
Hmm.
Because Will and I, when we were watching it, we thought he was turning into a monster.
Gotcha.
But then he just has normal Willie, not Felix. That's what it was. So yeah, that I think was like they started drawing something and then just fucking forgot. So yeah, I also thought Trejo was a monster until he gets called a human, like
Yeah.
at least 2 times by different characters. Because I think
I remember the one scene where he gets called a human, and I guess I had just like assumed.
well, he
I
calls
guess I
himself
gave-
a human when he's talking to Lino.
Yeah, I gave the movie too much of the benefit of the doubt, I guess.
You can't do that. If you give it an inch, it'll take a mile, 8 Mile, bunny
That's
rabbit,
probably true.
hip hop, black people.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I think one movie that takes this hip hop aesthetic and does really well with it is Spider-Superman. Oh my god, is Spider-Man Into the Spideyverse,
Yeah.
which to me it felt very much a product of people who were familiar with that sort of lifestyle, where it had the movie, it had the music, it did a really good job of incorporating like graffiti and stuff like that. That from a very outward appearance is a very stereotypical thing you see in inner cities, people just graffitiing stuff.
Yeah.
But it takes it and it does more than that, because the people who are doing graffiti, like the character of Miles, they're doing it as an expression of art, and it's not just raw vandalism.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was good, and I don't know, just I think it did a really good job also of showing like I like the fact his dad was a cop who was black, which
Hmm.
now in like today's world, like cops and African Americans have in the media are portrayed as just having this massive opposition to each other. So it's just like, no, there are still examples of them getting along. I don't know.
It's definitely a movie that handles the racial issues like a billion times better.
Yeah, because it doesn't like
Um,
point them out and be like, look how weird these people are with different melanin in their
yeah,
skin. It's just like we're all people.
yeah. I mean, like with at least with the environment, I think that the people who made MFKZ, the impression that I get is that they actually are really entranced by like a weird kind of beauty that's in that environment. Um, because it's like really, really lovingly rendered, and there's a lot of like vibrant color that's going on in the way that it's depicted. Um, I guess I feel like if you pause it at any moment and you had like taken that scene and like framed it and put it in like a painting gallery, it
Mm-hmm.
would read as very beautiful. It's just because we're seeing it through the context of the story that it doesn't read as much in that way.
I feel like once again we're giving the movie too much credit, only because it's this could be an example of going to Japanese culture of them just we're taking a thing, an idea, like whether it's ping pong or the hood of American metropolitan areas, and just drawing the shit out of it because
Yeah.
it's so hard to like. There's not any moment in the movie where I've seen movies where like it takes place in a shitty spot, but it does paint like the beauty of community and stuff like that because the character in it recognizes the beauty. Where they'll be
Yeah.
like, "It's shitty, but it's home." Is that everyone who lives wherever they are in the shitty areas just spends the whole movie shitting on it?
Hmm.
Is Lino says he hates it, Willie says he hates
Yeah.
it, Vin says he hates it, the gangbangers say they hate it. When the
I
white,
guess that's what I'm saying is like I think there's probably a disconnect between the art team and
mm,
the writing team here, where like the at the very least the people who are drawing it, I think were really trying to find a kind of beauty in it. But I think the people who were writing it are not, are like trying to find um the like terror that Angelino is feeling in it.
I guess that could definitely be the case. I don't know. It was just, oh, there's so many problems with this movie's writing that like
It's pretty bad, yeah.
I really wanted to like it, which was the most frustrating part. Like as I was watching, I'm like, that's cool, that's cool.
Yeah.
Why do I hate this? That's cool.
I
Am I
I totally
racist?
get that feeling. I like I said, like I like this movie a lot for the things that it gets right, but I like also find it really, really disappointing. Like I went to see this when it was showing in theaters here.
Oh,
Yeah. And so I was like so excited when I went in, and I remember leaving and being like, "Oh man, that was I mean, some of that was cool."
what the fuck is Willie?
Right though? I have no idea. I feel like with both Wheelie and Vince, I don't understand how they fit into that world at all. Like,
Yes, I'm gonna be like,
not counting the characters who are actual characters in that movie, we don't see or hear from anyone who's like nearly as weird as a skeleton with a flaming skull. But at the same time, he can just like walk around the streets and no one gives a shit that there's.
because part of me made me think that it was like a Hello Kitty sort of thing, where like Hello Kitty's not a cat; it's supposed to be a little girl
Yeah.
in that world. Is that Vince isn't really a skeleton with his head on fire; that he's just like a dude.
Hmm.
Until the scene when their apartment is getting raided and Lino uses the fire off the top of his head to burn that one dude. And I was like,
Yeah. Well, I
oh,
mean, Lino also says at the start of the movie that Vince can't get a job because no one is going to hire a dude whose head is on fire.
I don't remember that line. I mean, it totally sounds like something would be in there. I just don't remember that line at all. Uh, yeah, like if they would have gone more into it instead of just being like, this is the black people ghetto, be like, this is the black people and also like weird mythological creature ghetto.
Yeah.
That would have been much better world building.
That might have been something that like maybe helps them get around some of the issues the movie has too, is if they just like hadn't used actual races.
Hmm. If
Um, yeah,
if it was just all allegorical, that would have been better.
yeah, I think that's true.
Uh,
Not that that like necessarily absolves you, um, but at least you can get like closer to a place where you're like
just look at that movie,
not
Bright.
being as troublesome. Because like, um, I mean, there are instances of other characters, like other false races being read as supposed to be analogs for real races. Like a pretty infamous one is in Star Trek. There is a species called the Ferengi, who are
Wait,
these like
they were supposed to be black? I thought they were allegories
no,
for Jews.
yeah,
Okay, yeah.
that's what it is. It's like people say that
I
the
watched Star
Ferengi are,
Trek.
huh?
So I watched Star Trek, Robert.
You watch Star Trek?
Watched. But I know enough who the Ferengi are.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that's more than I thought you had watched of Star Trek. So
Like, I would say an even like bigger example that's way more modern is that movie Bright that came out like last year,
yeah,
where orcs are just black people.
yeah,
And then they did a slightly forward thinking move and they made the cop who has to interact and kind of be dealing with their shit Will Smith, who one is black and also is Will Smith and can do
yeah,
whatever except be a genie. But um, yeah, it's so weird, and this is sort of kind of a racist thing. The kind of now is like if you're not like black or Hispanic, it's really hard for you to make something that focuses on black or Hispanic culture without it seeming like really artificial and almost insulting.
yeah. I like. I hate to make that statement because I guess I feel like one of the strengths of having, um, of like learning about other cultures is so that you can see things in those cultures that
Mm-hmm.
you want to explore more. And I never want to say to any artist, like, you're this race, so that means you can only make things about this race. But at the same time, like, it's definitely a place where, like, when you start using someone else's culture as your own thing, you have to be, like, careful and thoughtful in the way that you do it. And this movie is not careful or thoughtful.
No, we're like 50 years out from like we just need more people trying to do this but doing it better, and then by the 50-year mark we'll be like, okay, yeah, that guy's Chinese but he made a really good telenovela and everything will be wonderful. But right now it's just
Yeah.
race is such just a big thing that like as I was watching the movie I'm like, oh my god, race is like the main thing to talk about in this movie and we're so devastatingly Caucasian that this is going to be really
Yeah.
weird. Like we've had like a bunch of people show up in watching this and then leave almost immediately when one of us says black, so I'm just like, oh no, this is bad. But we're almost at the 40-minute mark, so we're almost done feeling really uncomfortable. I'm feeling very uncomfortable. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I love anime, and I will keep
I
watching
do
it
too.
forever. Just after
Can we talk a little bit about the fact that I think we were talking about this some the other day, but this studio has at least 3 movies that we know of in which someone ramps an ice cream truck off of a bridge.
yes, that bugged the shit out of me because when I was looking at it when we were watching it, it pulls fucking Speed. Like, have you seen the movie Speed?
I haven't, no.
You know what the premise of the movie Speed is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, there's a shot in the movie Speed where they're coming. Can you see me on camera, or are you just talking to a void right now?
Just I
These,
can only see me on the Discord.
okay, these hand
That's
gestures will be
all
for the
I can
camera.
see. Yeah.
Is this the bus Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock are on are coming to a part in the road where it's like the road's gone because of road work, but they can't stop the bus because then they'll blow up. And they're like, we gotta ramp it. But the part they are ramping to is like above where they are, and they're coming at it completely straight. Like there's no ramp. But then in the shot in the movie when they get to the end, the bus sort of just like pop wheelies really quick to like get elevation and then launches up onto the street. And then they don't blow up. Is that in the scene with the ice cream truck, there was nothing that would have given the ice cream truck air.
Yeah.
It's driving straight, and then Lino's like, I'm handling it, and then just launches up so high. And then it said motherfuckers on the concrete under the bridge, and I was like, that's the movie.
They got us.
What was the one that
I do really like, though, the way that they used the ice cream truck music and, like, blended it into the music during the chase there.
Mm-hmm. Like, I think that was good. Fuck. There's just stuff where I'm like, that's neat. And then I'm just like, oh, no, that's not neat.
I know, there's so many things that are neat, and then every time you're like, oh no, why did you do that?
And there's like, lives by the sword, dies by the sword. I was like, oh. When he shot him in the face, I was like, I knew that was going to be the line that he said, but I thought that was going to say to him before he killed him. And then... Also, like, when Lino's walking away at the end before he collapsed because his heart's too cold, is Shakespeare, like, looks at him in a way, like, he looks at Lino, and then it camera cuts tight to his face as though, like, we're supposed to notice that he is looking at Lino. And then nothing happens. Like, I expected, like, in the epilogue of the movie to be like, and then Shakespeare comes around every now and then, and we talk about our favorite plays of The Taming of the Shrew.
Yeah.
But it's just like...
That's a character who I feel like they could have explored Shakespeare more, and maybe, like, Shakespeare and a couple of other characters, and maybe that would have helped, like, even a little bit with some of the racial issues going on. Because, like, one of the things that I was noticing this time when I was watching it is, like, Angelino, of course, is, like, terrified of these various, like, gangster groups that are in the places that he lives. But there's, like, a couple of instances of those groups really protecting him, you know? Like, right before the raid scene, there's that guy who's riding the bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like, notices the raid party, or at least I'm assuming that's what he's seeing off camera, and, like, gets off of his bike and starts to go for his gun to protect the place where he lives, and then gets shot. And it's, like, the same with like, when... they're in the hood and they get stopped by those gangsters who are telling them, like, this isn't a place for kids, like, you got to get out of here, you know?
That's not how I took it at all.
That's not how you took it?
No, like the dude on the because that specifically that dude on the bicycle, when he is introduced, is during the voiceover where Lino's like, you disrespect these guys, they will kill you.
Yeah.
And I took it that maybe he wasn't protecting the block. He was just like, these cops think they can step in where I live, I'm going to shoot them.
That could be true.
And
I'm probably giving the movie too much benefit of the doubt again.
And I remember they specifically do not say kids when, I know the scene you're talking about, like, you shouldn't be here, they say for people like you, little dudes. Like, they don't, like, if they're, because, like, I don't think Lino and him are supposed to be kids. I think they're just
I guess
tiny.
that's true. I just got the impression, though, that they were, like, legitimately, that there was, like, a disconnect between what Lino and Vince were seeing, where they were, like, feeling afraid because these guys are in their face, versus, like, what they're trying to do, where I at least read that they were trying to warn them, like, this is a dangerous place, and you know that it's dangerous and that you shouldn't be here.
I've seen too many movies of people going into hoods and then the gangster people's like, oh, this isn't a place for you, Ginger Snap, and, like, getting all up in their face, like, because they're trying to intimidate them. So that's how I took it, is that they were just completely setting the authority of, like, this isn't a place for you, this is our place, we run this town. Flora Kesh lyrics.
I guess, I don't know. I mean, like, I definitely see that reading, and I think the first time I watched it, that's like the way that I read it, but I don't know. In order to say anything definitive on that scene at this point, I think we'd have to just like go back and watch it again. But I think it's at least possible that there's kind of a subtext going on where those characters are trying to protect them. And like,
Because I don't know what they
even
would
if,
be protecting them from at that point.
well, because it's a dangerous place. Like literally during that scene where they're saying you got to get out of here, another rival gang shows up and starts a drive-by.
Yeah, but they don't. I don't remember them ever saying you got to get out of here. They
Yeah,
just say this is not a place for you. Like they don't offer them the alternative of like offer them a solution to the problem. They just say this isn't a place for you. And it's just like okay, and like there's just talking is never a thing that happens in armed conflict in this movie. It's just immediate escalation of murder. Like
yeah,
when the agents show up and everyone like the one gangbanger guy just starts starting shit, and the one guy's like back off or I'll put your dog down. He pulls out a gun and just murders that dude, and
yeah.
then everyone's just murdering everyone. Which I don't know. It could be sort of like a grindhouse over the top violent sort of thing where it's like oh I don't know. It made it feel like it was trying, and this I think will link back to the Shakespeare character, is that it was almost just kind of showing that these inner city black gangbanger dudes just only knew like that was how they interact with the outside world is by violently attacking it.
Hmm.
That they're not smart, they're not eloquent, they can't do anything except shoot, which
Yeah.
to me made Shakespeare stand out as I feel really dumb and I can't remember what the book is and I should have looked it up. Is he was someone who has the appearance of being very educated to stand out above it, but at the same time the way he's trying to portray himself to be more educated also shows him to be less almost like more pathetic than the other ones. Like he's using these quotes and he doesn't use them quite right for a few of them, and that's kind of why Danny Trejo, like when he shoots him in the face, he just like says a line. He's like, "I can also quote Shakespeare."
Yeah.
Bam, and then he shoots him. Like the only one that like felt right was "Live by the sword, die by the sword." That one to me was what fit in context, but at the same time, that has like biblical connotations, and he's so like, are you also saying that you're gonna die by getting shot in the face again, Shakespeare? I don't know. All I know is that we're getting to the halfway point in our podcast, and it's about time to switch gears. Unless you have anything else you want to add.
No, that's okay. I think we both.
Shit on this movie enough.
I mean, I think we would. Would it be fair to say that we would both say that this was a movie that had a couple of things that it did pretty well, but
Yes.
also a lot of things that it did very, very badly.
Like I kept watching it. I didn't go, "This
Yeah.
is stupid." Like if it was a bad movie, I would have stopped and then called you and been like, "Robert, I don't want to talk about this movie. This movie sucks." But,
Yeah.
like it was interesting the whole time. I
Yeah.
was never bored because it did a good job of being one very well educated and doing like it had the weird stupid shit like luchadors, and then it would have like the moments where it's like, "Who are these weird wrestlers? Why is Vince's head on fire?" And I was like, "What the
That that was the question I remember I wanted to ask you. Just do you hate the fact that it did that?
No, I don't
No?
like it, but I don't hate it because
I found it like really irksome every time that it did that because I'm like, don't stop your movie to ask me the like most idiotically obvious question.
Fabulous Owl Riot did not like it.
Yeah.
Because what I was hoping was that it was going to build to something more than the one when they do it, and then Lino just kind of has the throwaway line of like, "Wait, did I say that?" When they do the one with Vince's head's on fire, I was really hoping for like, while it was happening, something weird would happen, like those letters would like the words would appear physically in the scene, and people would have to like push them out of the way, or like during a fight, maybe someone grabs the words and like hits them with it, or have a moment of like fourth wall breaking where they're like, "Fucking stop putting those up! This is serious. People are dying." But then
that would have made it way better. I think I would have liked it a lot more. and I could be remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure they do a couple fourth wall breaks in the movie, so it wouldn't have even like been a problem for them to do.
I can't really think of any other than, I mean, the one where he was like, wait, did I say that? Where he was like taking into account that they were saying these weird things. I don't know.
Mm.
There probably was, because the writing I just started glossing over a bunch. Like, what happened to his dad? Like, they don't show the
Yeah.
dad dog dying. They just show him leaving the baby in the dumpster and then fucking off, which is that's just supposed to be analogous to how there's the stereotype of most black inner city males grow up without dads.
Yeah, I don't know.
Which, in this case, had major ramifications because he wasn't there to tell his son, yo, you have crazy alien tentacle powers. You can turn into a dog.
I guess I assumed he got killed, but
If he had gotten killed, they needed to show that happening.
yeah.
Or explicitly state, like, yo, we killed your dad. But really, you needed to show it, so that way the audience knew for sure it happened. It wasn't them just lying about it.
Yeah.
I don't know. Just more weird stuff. And you know what also is weird? Dying in a
What?
video game and then losing all of your progress. Segways.
Into our second topic,
Yes.
which is roguelikes or roguelites.
They're different things.
That is correct.
Now,
I don't know that I completely understand the differences, but I think I have a vague idea.
The differences were set down in a Berlin gaming conference.
Oh yeah?
Where to be a roguelike, naturally I'm sure you know where the term rogue, like why it's called Rogue whatever, is because it's based on a game called Rogue. That's where the term came from. And Rogue.
Oh, so it's like Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's sort of like the term Souls-like.
Exactly. Is it comes from Rogue, and Rogue was like a top-down, like very simple. I think it also had like text-based elements, and it was a procedural thing where every time you died, the game just started from the beginning, and it was turn-based. Is that the three? And it's sort of back and forth on what are the purest definition, but this is what I could find. I looked at a few different websites. Is that it has three components. One being it's turn-based combat. Like if it's not turn-based, it can't be a rogue-like. It has permadeath, where you lose everything. Like it's back to square one when you die.
Yeah.
And then 3, it's procedural generation for the environment and the things within it. So anything other than that, like Rogue Legacy, FTL, where you do restart at some extent, but then you get to keep stuff. And then it's not turn based.
Those are roguelites.
Yes, LITE. But those, for a while there, fucking everything that was coming out on Steam that was an indie game was a roguelite. For like 5 years. It was crazy. I feel like it's kind of it's kind of slowed down.
Yeah.
Like I think the last really big one, and I haven't played it yet, but I'm gonna try to get it for the channel, is Dead Cells. That's the last roguelike that's come out that I've seen get really good reviews
things about that one.
But and you mentioned a few when we talked last time. Like, what are some of your favorite roguelites or roguelikes?
So I like FTL a fair amount. It's been a while since I played it, but I remembered it being a good experience. I played one that was kind of similar called Halcyon, that was sort of like a space station simulator.
I actually have not heard of that one.
It's pretty okay. Enter the Gungeon, though, is the one that I've played the most, and I really, really love that game. And then I've played a decent amount, although I'm really bad at it, of a game called Yodanji, which, based on the definition you just gave us, is an actual roguelike instead of just a roguelite.
Because I was gonna say, like, I think I've tried Rogue for just because I think you can basically get it for free now. It's like it's shareware. You can just try it, and I was like, this sucks. I don't like it because it's an old ass game.
Yeah.
Is I honestly don't think roguelikes would really do well in our kind of gaming landscape right now. Is that unless it was something like a mobile game? Is that the thing I hate most So I was making a list of roguelikes lights that I played. One of them was Dungeons of Dreadmore, which I don't know if you're familiar with that game.
Mm-mm.
Well, it's basically you just go down towers and you level up, and there's a bunch of weird powers. Is the thing I hate about roguelites, the thing that makes them like part of their thing is I hate permadeath. I hate feeling as though I have wasted my time because we're all
Yeah.
mortal and there's a ticking clock hanging over all of us, and I don't want to feel like I spent 3 hours doing this thing and then it's dead and then the game just shits on me. Is that it's supposed to be a roguelite, but there's just an option at the start screen that's like, do you just want to not do you just want to play it and then if you die you just load at a save point? And I was like, yes. And I did. I played the whole game and it was wonderful and I highly recommend that game. It's like $2 on Steam like every other week. But is that idea of having to start from square one
Yeah.
is such, I feel like, counterintuitive to society now where we're always just in a rush,
Yeah.
especially
I
now.
mean, a lot of roguelites kind of like play with that concept a little bit though.
Mm-hmm.
Like in Enter the Gungeon, yeah, when you die, you go back to the start, but you can like unlock stuff that'll show up in your later rounds.
Exactly.
Or like in FTL, you can unlock different starships that you can use for your next run, that kind of thing.
I think the best roguelite that I've played that I really like and we might play on the channel because Will hasn't played it is Rogue Legacy.
Hmm.
And have you played that at all?
Uh-uh.
Okay, are you familiar with it?
I've just heard the name. The
I've,
name is familiar. I know nothing
if
else.
you like platformers, I really if you like it is super hard up the butt of Symphony of the Night in terms of just aesthetic and combat sort of. I
Nice.
recommend you give it a try. Is what it does is the castles are the castle when you go in the first time is procedurally generated,
Mm-hmm.
and as you go, your main thing is to find gold, and then
Yeah.
when you die, you get to keep your gold at the end of that run, and then you use that gold, and you can spend it, and it gives yourself more health. It just you make yourself stronger every run,
Yeah.
and then what you can do also is if you want to you don't have to spend any money, you just kind of put a penalty on money you pick up is you can pay like this one npc to lock down the castle so that way it'll be exactly the same way it was last time.
Mm.
So rather than like because Enter the Gungeon you really don't get any upgrades, you just get the chance to get upgrades.
Yeah.
You just have those, you just puts those guns into the random roulette of what shit's gonna pop out when you kill an enemy. Whereas
Yeah.
Rogue Legacy, you actively get better so long as by the end of the run when you die, you've made enough money to buy an upgrade.
Hmm.
So it just becomes this snowballing effect, an uphill snowballing effect? I don't know if you'd call it that. Of progress where, I mean, you might have one or two runs where you get just murdered really quick and you only made 10 gold. So, because what happens if what gold you don't spend upgrading when you go into the castle another time, this character just takes. At first, he takes all of your money, but then there are upgrades where eventually he'll only take like I think it's something like 30% of your money. So as that keeps going, you get to keep more and more money to buy better and better upgrades. Eventually, you turn into a dragon, and you just fly around as a dragon, and ruin shit. So like that one was really great.
I've actually, yeah, hearing you talk about that game reminded me of another game that I really, really love and have played a weird amount of
What's a
that I
weird
think
amount
is a
of?
roguelite. Even though when I describe it, you're going to be like, what are you talking about, Robert?
All right,
Have you ever heard of a game called Solitarica?
Robert, you have the weirdest knack of just. I feel like I pride myself on knowing a lot about stuff, and then you're like, "Have you heard of Shimnap?" And I'm like, "What the where?" No, I have not heard of. What was the name?
Solitarica, like solitaire, because the core mechanic of the game is solitaire.
Okay.
But the game is kind of like it's basically like a boss rush, but every boss is a solitaire board
Mm-hmm.
where like every time that you play a card out, it like counts down turns and then the boss will use like a move that does damage to you or that like adds cards back or does other stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so like your goal is just to clear that solitaire boss, and it's a boss rush. So you like start at the first one, and then it will like randomly select which bosses you run into up until the final boss. Your
Okay.
goal is to give it a run, but it has that same mechanic where you earn gold while you're going through a run, and you can use it to upgrade specific classes. And then if you do a run with that class, it's better after you've upgraded it.
Gotcha. That actually sounds kind of fun.
I really love it.
Now, what
It
is the weird amount that you have played?
Oh man, so I've bought that game twice because I bought it when it released on Steam, and then when it got a mobile release, I bought it there. So I would guess like maybe as high as like 20 or 30 hours. Um,
Oh, okay. That's not nearly what I was expecting.
well, I mean, just for like a solitaire game though, that feels like a lot.
I guess because I know how much you've played Hearthstone, so.
Yeah, that's true.
But other thing, like I don't know, like I remember I watched a Zero Punctuation not too long ago, and he was talking about some roguelike game, and he had it was, it was more of a joke that was funny for what it was, and it made real sense. But he uses the term that losing everything and having to start again has a very zen experience because it's like,
Hmm.
and then he says like and then he says like that's why I set myself on fire every morning. And I'm just like,
That's a very Yahtzee joke.
I was like, that doesn't really mean you're starting from the beginning. That just means you have horrible burns. But I get what you're trying to say, Ben. But I don't know. I definitely like roguelikes, but I would never want to make one.
Hmm.
Just because the idea of like the mechanic being this loop of hey, you lost, you have to basically do a run again. But if
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm trying to say right now. I guess if I was gonna make something, I'd want to make it like Rogue Legacies. Like Rogue Legacy, almost to me doesn't feel like a roguelite,
Hmm.
other than the fact that there is, uh, what's the term? Random generation, procedural
Hmm.
generation of levels. Is that
Yeah.
you don't lose anything. I think there are individual elements from Rogue that make good games. That's just game development. Is you take bits and pieces from old things and then you just repurpose them for new stuff.
So I'll say this is something that I think is like maybe a bit of a counterpoint to that,
Mm-hmm.
or at least for me, it's something that makes that the roguelite formula really fun.
Mm-hmm.
Is that like one of the things that I find really fun in games is like finding a new item or weapon or power or whatever, and like suddenly being more powerful than I used to. And like you can have a game where there's like a longer game and you're always getting more and more powerful, but I feel like you kind of have to make those powers more incremental to do that. So they don't feel exciting in the same way. But if you give people like a bunch of weird, crazy, powerful stuff all the time, then they're too overpowered by the time they get to the end. And so the roguelite solution is like, we're going to give you the fun of like, there's a bit of a gambling feel because you never know what
That's
you're
what I
going to
was gonna say.
find,
Is
like
like,
what item. Yeah. I don't know, like it's just exciting to me to have that the fun of like, oh, here's the surprise power I get to try and play around with this time.
mm-hmm.
Um,
That's
and I
that's a
feel like you couldn't do that in the same way if you have a game where you die but you keep all your stuff.
that is a really good point. I hadn't really thought about it that way. I just know that after such a long time of there just appeared where basically every 2D platformer I was playing was rogue light in some situation. That
Oh yeah.
I got to Hollow Knight and started playing that, and that is a handcrafted, well, hand being a loose term, crafted experience where it's like every
Lovingly crafted.
yes, it is planned that this is what will always happen, and I was just like, oh, when you have those moments where it's like this is specifically going to happen right here every time after this other thing, there's just so much. Like what you described, gambling is really good. That's like doing just like a quick hit of Coke off the table
Yeah.
where it's like, oh, I feel good, and then it settles. Whereas like a handcrafted game is like sinking into a tub of really good cheesecake, where you're gonna be there for a really long time, and hopefully you'll die there, and you'll have no regrets.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just trying. I was just looking through like what games in my library are roguelikes that I've played a lot of. Another one was Don't Starve, which
Was what?
Don't Starve,
Mm.
which I like the idea of it because I when it was part of another. It was like the weird crossover period where everything was roguelikes and then everything else was survival games,
Yeah.
and I liked what it did. But it still bothered me. It's like, oh man, I put all this hard work into building a oh, I'm dead. Everything I lost just fell on the floor and I'm dead. When they added the mode Don't Starve Together, where it kind of pulled the Dungeons of Dreadmore, where it took a roguelike and then just threw away the roguelike elements, I liked the game so much more.
Hmm.
That, like, now that the thing you said I think hits perfectly is the thing you said I think is the only thing that really would make a roguelike enjoyable. Like when you have a game like Don't Starve, where there aren't any like, boop, I open this chest and there's a chance that I could either get the rusty knife of Dave or the super bazooka or Mephistopheles, but where it's just like, no, there's grass over there. There's just grass. You pick up the grass, and you have to build a hut from the grass. Find more grass. Oh, the grass is over here this time. That doesn't really work.
Yeah.
You would really have to have that loot box system.
Hmm.
That, because like what you said before, but you also get to keep it, which to me feels good as well as a, what am I saying, is Rogue Legacy has treasure chests, and you don't really ever know what's going to be in the treasure chest because it's always different. But then it feels good because you get to keep what you find in that treasure chest. To me, Enter the Gungeon is really the only roguelike, because that's what I've just been thinking about, where that crack addiction feeling hits, where it's like, oh, what gun? Oh, it's the t-shirt cannon. Yes.
Yeah.
I can't think of any other games where I've felt like that were roguelike.
Most of the roguelites that I've really enjoyed, except for maybe Yodanji, have that where it's like, I don't know, like, I guess in all fairness, I'm someone who really, really likes to and therefore really, really should not gamble. Um, but I can get like a safe hit of that in a roguelite.
Because like, what elements of that are in FTL? Like FTL is,
Well, it doesn't have loot boxes, but like, you can go into any encounter and you never know, like, is this an encounter where all I'm going to do is get fucked, or is this an encounter where like I'm gonna run into some resource or find some like new crew member who's a type of alien that I haven't seen before, or like a weapon that I haven't seen. And with a game like FTL, I think in order to get good at it, you probably have to have played it enough that those things stop being surprising to you. Um, but even then, it can be kind of fun to just know, like, maybe this is the round where I get like all the good stuff and get to make it through. But definitely Enter the Gungeon is the one that gets that feeling the best. Because there's just so much silly stuff in that game.
exactly.
And you're just like, yes, I got the gun where I shoot people and they turn into chickens.
I don't know if I have that gun.
It's pretty fun.
But like, because I was thinking like, it would take more effort on the developer than what is like FTL. To me, I think would be another game that benefit from permanence. Is that what you just have the thing where it's because from what I got from what you were saying is that what treasure box opening is in Enter the Gungeon, enemy encounters are in FTL, where like that's like the surprise thing. Is to me, I feel like those would be more fun if it wasn't like, because the question is this the round where I just get fucked?
Yeah.
Sounds like terrible, like a terrible experience to ever have to ask. Is having permanent things of like, okay, now I always know I'm gonna always have this weapon right here or whatever, and the game would just have to know like, okay, he's at this tier of weapons, so now we have to start increasing the power of what ships, so that way maybe once you get really strong, you would have even more powerful ships to deal with earlier on or something. I don't know, just I can't. Every time I see a roguelike game, I just see like, man, if you remove those elements, that sounds like it'd be more fun
Yeah.
for me. Except Enter the Gungeon. Enter the Gungeon so far is the only one.
Hmm.
The only thing I'd like in that one is like maybe because like the way because they do have the one thing that they do that is that's anti roguelike things where you can get those shortcuts.
Yeah.
But those shortcuts suck.
Yeah.
Because then you start that level with the starter gun. And it is an enormous piece of shit, and then you die, and it's like, what was the point of building this shortcut?
Yeah.
Is either like permanent health upgrades or something. That's something I would like, just so that like I can make use of those shortcuts I worked my ass off to build.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely agree with that. That's like a mechanic that I would like to see more roguelites play with, where like it isn't just that you have to play more and get better at the game, but also that you as you play more, kind of like just your character gets better.
Because that what you've just said, I think is, which is something that I think I knew in the back of my head, but never brought it to the forefront to think about. Is that's the point of the roguelike, is it is a pure exercise and you get to go further because you got better
Yeah.
when it's done correctly. When it's a game where the question, is this the round where I get fucked, is asked because of turn-based combat, then that's not the case. That's just literally getting shit on. But
Yeah.
something like, I don't know, like a roguelike Dark Souls, where it's like once I understand the mechanics, I'm able to get through the whole game without dying. But I don't know. I haven't seen a lot of roguelike games that are more skill testy than they are just dice rolly. So in a
Yeah.
game of dice rolls, I feel that the more you like just power your way through dice rolls, you should start getting more and more chances to have loaded dice.
Yeah.
But
So I think there's one other thing that for me is like an advantage that roguelikes have that maybe like a longer game doesn't, which is just that like if you're playing a roguelike and assuming that you get a decent run in, you can have like a really, really great memorable gaming experience in like 30 minutes. And it just makes this really good like bite-sized chunk of game that you can play if you don't have a ton of time.
okay, that is also
Because like
very
that was
valuable.
something that I really liked about Enter the Gungeon was it was like a good game where I could like work on actual work that I needed to do, but be like, I'm gonna take a 30-minute break, see how far I can get in this run, and then just go back to working.
Yeah,
Or
I guess that comes.
alternatively be like, I had so much fun, I'm gonna play again. Just one more. And then just one more. And then just one more.
I think I'm seeing a pattern of addiction, Robert.
Yeah.
I guess that is true. I think that comes down to personal preference. For me, I'd rather be like, well, I have 30 minutes. I'd rather see how far I can get. That way, when I pick up again for another 30 minutes, I'm further.
Yeah.
But that I recognize is just, that's how I feel about stuff. Is there's so many games that I want to play that I just hate getting stuck in one spot for so long, because it's like, oh man, Cyberpunk 2077 is coming out in anywhere between 6 months to 5 years. So I got to be ready for it, and I can't be stuck trying to get a perfect run on the third floor boss, who is a tank that shoots smaller tanks.
Yeah.
Son of a bitch tank. I almost.
So yeah, I think I already know the answer to this question is probably no.
All
But
right.
have there ever been any like AAA roguelike?
I guess I'm trying to think. Rogue Light.
Either one.
Oh, it's like at this point I don't know if Minecraft is roguelite anymore.
Mm, I feel like it's not.
One
But
that is dedicatedly roguelite, I don't know, but there are so many games now that have roguelite modes. Like Doom that we just finished, the hardest difficulty is
Mhm.
called Ultra Nightmare, where it's when you die once, no matter where you are, you have to start the whole game over.
hmm.
And then it has like little features that'll show you in your next run enemies where they killed you, and then it'll have your spot where you died.
Yeah.
Resident Evil 7 has a mode like that where when you die, you can go back and you have to start from the beginning, but you can find your body and you get to get one of your items from your last run.
Yeah, but those aren't like procedurally generated at all though, are they?
No. So it would just have the
Yeah.
thing of permadeath. That's, I guess, what was the thing. As far as
Yeah. And I
procedural
I
generation goes,
like I don't feel like permadeath alone is enough for me to say that's even a roguelite. Like I do think there has to be some element of randomness even to the roguelite, if not the
I
like does
can't
that
think of any third, recently in the last few years, a third, like a AAA game that actually is based on procedural generation.
yeah, that's true. I mean it's hard to procedurally generate
Well, no,
a like AAA
oh,
environment,
okay. I
but
was like, procedural generation is easier because you just put in a thing and then every time the computer just builds a level. That's why it's in so many games. Is you just have to write the algorithm and then you just put in the individual components into like the component processor in Unity, and then Unity will build you the level.
yeah.
Which is why a lot of like Chasm is a game that came out I think last year, and it's a Metroidvania that is not. It's roguelite in the fact that there is procedural generation where each level, like there's 4 or 5 different zones, like the bowels and then the nursery or whatever.
Yeah.
And aside from like a few fixed rooms, everything is procedurally generated.
Hmm.
But as opposed to something like Symphony of the Night, where like the land makes sense, because it's like these stairs go up to this floor, is that there will be rooms where it's like you get on a set of stairs and it just goes right up into a wall,
Hmm.
and that's the room, and you're just like, okay, algorithm, that was weird, and then you turn around and leave. But for the rest of
Thanks
your
for throwing me into the Winchester Mystery House.
exactly, and then for the rest of your game, like it doesn't change after you die. That
Yeah.
that room will always be just stairs up into a wall, and it's just like, oh. But no, I can't really think of any.
Yeah.
The one I can think is closest would be Minecraft. Is when Minecraft was first started. After like it was moving out of creative mode, it started moving towards the survival mode, which is like once you're dead, then you have to start over again.
Yeah, but I don't think I would have called Minecraft a AAA game.
Yeah,
It might be at this point, but like definitely its origins are not in the AAA realm.
no, because it just there's just I don't know, just because rogue like elements are normally just like the realm of the indie dev, because
Yeah.
they're all shortcuts, because you don't have to make a lot of content when the whole point is you're going to be seeing these same 8 rooms a lot because this game is going to stomp on you.
Yeah.
So
I guess I just felt like it would be cool to see like a AAA level of polish on a roguelike game. Not the I mean like the good ones are really really polished usually. Like Enter the Gungeon is incredible, but like something that looked like Dark Souls but was a roguelite would be really cool.
like I would be up for playing a game that would basically be a 3-dimensional rogue legacy. Like it would have to be those sort of rules where you go in, oh, I know, Let It Die.
I don't think I've ever heard of that.
It's another Suda51 game.
Oh.
I would say that's probably the closest, where it's
Hmm.
as you have permadeath, you can pay to get your people back, but it's yeah, every time you go into the dungeon, the room layout's completely different. It's a free to play game on the PlayStation 4.
Hmm. So I need to check it out then.
Check it
Is
out.
it good?
Is Void Bastards a roguelike game? Oh. Hi, Dervik. Is
I
it is good, and it has a lot of like good elements to it, but it is notorious that you will eventually hit this wall that is like you cannot. I'm almost afraid to recommend it to you because you will hit a point where it's like this can't be free to play anymore. I need to start spending real money.
Oh, it's one of those games.
Yes, but that wall doesn't hit for like a while, and it's totally possible to get past it. It's just not if you're a casual person who's like. The game is also very hard.
Yeah.
Is the whole
So
mechanic?
is it a single player game?
Yes,
Okay.
it is single player with the only multiplayer element is the ability to go fuck up other people's houses. Is like your hub is a train station, and the
Hmm.
whole thing because it's a Suda game is that you are not playing as you are playing as a person playing a video game.
Yeah.
And in the world of this video game, you're trying to get to the top of this tower, and your hub is a train station, and you can just play through the first thing, and it's the same thing where you go up the first escalator, and that brings you to like the metro, and then the metro goes into the gardens, and then same sort of zones. Is your base can be attacked by other players who will come and break all of your shit to get crafting materials and money, and then you can get on a train and go fuck up their shit. And what you do is you buy people that you can control, and like, because there's like 5 different classes. Like, one good at melee, one's good at like agile stuff, one's good at finding shit, and you can set them up as bodyguards. But yeah, it's a game where when your person dies, that person is dead unless you can pay a shitload of money, or you buy another character, get up to that point, and then you have to kill that your person again to bring them back, and then you have to pay to wake them up.
I see.
So there gets to be points where it's like this dude's a lost cause. He's effectively dead forever because reviving him is way too much money.
Hmm.
But the game has elements like where you can ride an you can unlock elevator points, so that way you can just go up to places, or you can pay. And the game is really evil almost. I don't want to shit talk it too much because it is fun, and I put like 30 hours into it before I was like, okay, I'm at that wall point and I don't want to keep grinding. Where they'll give you like premium tickets, and you can use that premium ticket to just, with no problem and no downside, just ride an elevator up to the next level. Or you can
Gotcha.
use tokens to revive a dude for free.
Hmm.
But yeah, that is one where death is pretty heavy, and all the worlds are always different. I would say it's
Yeah.
almost double A, but it's because it's when you look at it, it clearly has some edges that need to be smoothed, but it has a cool style. You can do drop kicks and hurricane ranas, so that is the stealth takedown from above is a jumping head scissors, which is the best takedown from above in any video game ever.
Even better than the plunging attack.
Yes, because the plunging attack is just a static animation you ride all the way down.
Yeah, but it's the most reliable move in the game.
That's what's different than the best vertical takedown in all of video games.
Fair enough.
I would say give it a shot, and you
Okay.
might be like, "This is cool." You might be like, "Eh," but yeah, I
At
put
the very least, I can like look at some trailers and see if it looks fun to me.
the mascot is Uncle Death, and he is a somewhat Hispanic-sounding Grim Reaper who rides around on a skateboard and wears 3D glasses.
That sounds pretty dope. That sounds pretty rad. That's like a
That
very 90s sounding thing.
the game
It's
is
gotta be
very
rad.
90s.
Yeah.
It has a lot of Japanese punk and jazz music in it. That's its soundtrack.
Okay. I like that.
And some of it's really good, and some of it's weird. I don't know. And instead of wearing armor, like the other thing is, instead of wearing armor, you buy stickers to put on your character's body, and then like once those are on, like you can't remove them. So there's just a lot of sense of eventually this is all getting thrown in the garbage. But yeah, I think that's the closest to AAA that I can think of. But it's a really weird game.
Well, have to check it out.
And it's free. So
That's a good price.
nothing to lose but your time.
Yeah. Which I
But
don't have nearly enough of, but
Yeah, you like when I was like, hey, you want to do that? And you're like, I'm busy at work, I can't talk anymore. And I was like, oh, okay. I was. Let's see what Void Bastards is. I heard it's coming out. I didn't know it was a roguelike. Void.
Saying Winchester Mystery House earlier made me really want a Winchester Mystery House roguelite, though. I want to play that now.
What is Winchester? Whatever.
Oh, are you not at all familiar with that?
No.
So it's like one of the most infamous, supposedly haunted houses, where it was
Oh.
built by the woman who was married to the guy who made the Winchester Rifle Company. So she was
Oh.
like rich as shit, but the legend is that she felt like she was being haunted by all of the people who her husband's guns had killed.
Oh shit.
And so in order to deal with that fear, she was just like for the entirety of her life, she was always adding new things to her house, including a lot of like corridors that just go to nothing or doors that open into nothing because she thought that that would confuse the ghosts. So like the
That's
house is
fucking
just this
weird.
big clusterfucky maze. Um, but I really love. I've always wanted to play a game set in the Winchester Mystery House or an analog of the Winchester Mystery House.
That could be our
That's part of
game we make, Robert.
yeah. I think the other day I might have brought up the Stephen King television miniseries Rose Red, and that's
Yes.
part of what I loved so much about Rose Red is that it's basically an analog for the Winchester Mystery House.
That does sound pretty cool. And to get back to Dervik's point, yes, Void Bastards does have uh, roguelike elements, but it's also an indie game, so it's Bioshock without a story.
Could be fun.
But I don't know, that does sound cool. I'm trying to think, are there any more of these games we didn't talk about? Don't Starve, Dungeons
Are
and
there
Dragons.
any other places or sort of like ideas for roguelites that you feel like would be fun? Just what you want someone to make?
What do I want someone to make that is a roguelike? I don't know. It's because it's a genre that anytime I see roguelite elements, I always kind of just go, what does that mean?
Yeah.
That I don't. The game I'm very interested to try before I say anything about it is a game Streets of Rogue,
Hmm.
which is in beta, so it kind of goes against my principles of buying a game that's not finished yet. But I might get it. Is a roguelike where it's not about killing things, it's about making choices.
Yeah.
And did that Ori game have DLC that was a roguelike? I don't know what Ori is. Or Ori in the Blind Forest? I don't
Oh, I haven't played it, but I did not think that was a roguelite.
I'm not sure what it says
I thought
Ori.
it was just like a platformer.
Prey, yes, Prey did have. That's right, I forgot. Moon Crash was a DLC add-on to the new Prey game.
Hmm.
That was roguelike, where every time you died, you just started again, but you could like get better equipment for other runs. Thank you again, Dervik, for salvaging our stream. But
Doing more research than either of us did.
something I didn't think of was AAA roguelikes. Is Streets of Rogue has like different you get different character classes with different stats. Like some are good at talking, and like the from what it looks like is just every level will have a different randomly selected achievement. Like one might be like find a package, and the
Yeah.
package in one might be it's behind a door guarded by a bunch of dudes, and depending on the class you picked, hypothetically there's always a solution to get that package. But is you would have to then be like, oh well, I picked this guy who's good at talking and he can tell this dude, oh, guns are really cool, you should go look at the guns over. And a better solution, what I'm talking about, say it's guarded by police, is one of the options you have is you can go say, hey, there's a dude outside doing crimes, and the police will leave the door, and then you can go in and get the package.
Sounds pretty cool.
And you can also play as a gorilla.
Well, that's always a plus if you can play as a gorilla.
But it sounded very interesting because one, I'm very into the whole solving problems. As an ape, you do extra damage to scientists.
Only scientists?
I guess. Because that's a class in the game, is you can just be a scientist.
Ah,
So,
that makes more sense then.
and also scientists, as we know, all have brittle bones.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, you know that I
Yeah,
work
you
in
work
a
with scientists, and they're
industrial
always
research
tripping, and their
laboratory.
bones are exploding.
Yeah, all the time. It's like crazy. I just like walk down the hallway, and there's always someone who's on the floor screaming, "My leg!"
And then you just pour
Just like,
melted
get it together, dude.
plastic onto them.
I burned my fingies today at work, so
Your fingies.
yeah. It turns out that you should not put plastic bags into ovens that are at 160 degrees Celsius because
I'm
they'll
gonna make
melt.
a note of that.
Yeah, and then when you do that, you shouldn't panic and immediately try to pull the metal plates out of the oven with your bare hands. That was a bad call.
Yep.
Yep,
But
I burned my fingies, but
oh,
it's all right.
that's,
It could have been a lot worse.
I suppose. But getting back to your question of like what I'd want, I guess going back to thinking about keeping the idea away from being necessarily a murder game is maybe a roguelike with the idea of collecting knowledge, where you might have like a puzzle door where it's like, the man who sits upon whatever, and then like your character just doesn't know what that means. So it would be a matter of like finding books, and that would get clues, and the whole idea would be is if you die, you get to keep parts of knowledge to answer hypothetical future questions later, but then you amnesia out some things. But I don't know, something where it's like one idea I had for a game was a game where it's a stealth game where you play as a robot, and instead of being violent, the whole way you interfaced with it was a game where you were a robot in a world of just other robots, and the idea was you learned how to do like coding commands to talk to other robots, and as you talk to certain robots, you would gain like administrative privileges, and basically you could just tell robot, because I'm a higher class than you, when I tell you something, you have to always believe that it is true. Or you could set like a gun always firing set to true, and then you back away and the guy just starts firing randomly in the air, and he might kill the target you're trying to hit who's in the room with him. I don't know, something like that, where maybe those sort of commands are the things you learn on a run, and then when you hit a problem, like, oh, now I can use the make this robot fall in love with this robot command.
Yeah, that would be really fun.
Don't steal my game idea, Dervik, but Outworld, is it the Outer Worlds? Is that the game that you're thinking of?
Me?
No, he's Dervik. A star blows up. Okay, I know what you're talking about. I don't know what that game's called, but I saw that in a Kotaku article where it's a game where it's like Minute. Do you know? Have you played Minute?
I haven't played it, but I've seen stuff about it.
So that's another addition, like interesting sort of roguelike-ish, where you have 60 seconds to play a level, but every progress of that 60 seconds carries over.
Yeah.
Well, this one's like a 3-dimensional space game where you have 20 minutes to do something before you die. And then like certain things of those 20-minute loops will carry over.
Gotcha.
But you play looking for knowledge about preventing the nova. But I don't know. Roguelikes are weird.
Yeah.
And
they're weird, but I like some of them a lot. I'd like to see people keep playing with the formula of them.
I definitely think it's going to turn into a thing sort of like with Dark Souls, where less very in-your-face versions of that game are going to be less popular, and it's going to be like, there'll be like 10 years down the road, they'll be like, but this has a roguelike-ish element where every time you die, you lose a thingamajig.
Yeah.
Like Dark Souls 2 has a thing where every time you die, you lose part of your health bar.
Oh, really?
Yep, until you get to halfway, and then it doesn't come back until you become human again. And when that game came out, I saw some reviews kind of call that as a roguelike element.
Hmm.
Roguelike ish element where it's like, oh, you're getting penalized per runs.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so maybe there'll be stuff like that where after Dark Souls came out, like there was Lords of the Fallen, that was just Dark Souls but shittier. That there, I think there's going to be less in your face roguelikes as time goes on, just because I don't know, it's there's not enough
Maybe.
battle royales out there. If they can make a battle royale with roguelike elements, which I think they've already done, I'm sure that's a thing. I don't know why I was thinking I was being clever. Oops, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like in a way, the battle royale is sort of like expansion of that idea, isn't it? Or it's like just a multiplayer version of it. I
uh,
guess maybe
well, there's
because
not
like
procedural generation.
that's true. Even like, I mean, isn't like where I guess I haven't played any, but isn't like where the weapons are kind of random. There's like an element of randomness to it,
I, th-
even if it isn't
I think with
a
PUBG that
level.
might be the thing, but I think in Fortnite everything is where it's supposed to be.
Huh.
I think I'm probably wrong. I don't know enough. I just thought I heard somewhere it's like once you learn where the shotgun spawns, that's where you're going to want to run first.
Hmm.
So maybe, but that's I don't know. Is that kind of true with just really any earlier competitive like multiplayer shooter? Was just, brr, weapons are everywhere. Go find
Yeah.
them.
Um, I don't know. I mean, I don't think people are necessarily going to stop making hard roguelites, though.
It's just definitely tapered. I don't think that I'm sure no one's going to like stop doing it. It
Yeah.
definitely has just slowed down,
Well,
at least in terms of
yeah,
really popular ones.
that's it may be that like the development of them has slowed down, but I do think it's a genre that maybe in the last couple of years it hasn't been the like interest isn't in it hasn't been growing as much, but I do think interest in it has grown. Um, and so like as interest grows, of course there will be like easier versions that have a wider audience appeal. But I mean, I think people still want to make harder versions too.
I guess we'll just say I haven't heard of
Yeah.
any that are coming out.
Mhm.
It might also just because I don't know. It almost to me it feels like the gaming landscape is kind of tired of them for right now, just because we like just, there was so many of them for like the last 4 to 5 years. They were just everywhere. Like every indie 2D pixel art game was like roguelike, dungeon crawler, go.
Yeah.
And now that's sort of that's where battle royales are. Is that there's so many. Hey, thanks,
Mm.
Deus Ex Fanatic. Ah, I should move that. So I will.
What are you moving?
The little like pop up box as Deus Ex Fanatic is hosting us, which is very nice of
Oh,
them.
thank you.
Despite the fact we're probably
That's
only
very
going to
nice.
go for like 10 more minutes. Unless we don't, I'm up for talking about it. This is my favorite part of being alive, is talking about video game theory. But I don't know. I don't think there's ever going to be like I don't think Naughty Dog or Rockstar is ever going to be like we're going to make a dedicated roguelike game.
Yeah. Um, but I don't know. I could imagine some studio just like coming up with an idea and pitching it and pitching it.
What studio
I
do you
do.
think would be most likely to do it?
I don't know. I don't even know studios all that well.
Okay.
But I don't know. It just seems like the fact that no one has I guess we're saying there are like a couple of games that have kind of roguelite modes in them,
Mm-hmm.
but not necessarily like a dedicated AAA roguelite. And I just feel like that's a niche that if someone made it, there would be a market for. Like I'd definitely be interested in playing something like that.
I just don't know if there is a niche because like AAA games aren't necessarily made to fill niches.
Yeah.
They're made for the mass wide appeal because that's where the money comes from. And especially now, this learning today is like how like Google Stadia is coming, is that it's very suspected that within like the next 10 years, game development is going to start slowing down. Just because there's going to be less jobs. Because, what was I going to say? Is like hardware is going to start disappearing. Possibly, like this might be the last PlayStation.
Yeah.
And then Sony will just move into doing cloud service stuff. Like Will and I were looking about possibly just buying like the Stadia Founders Pack like today for $129, which is a really good deal when you look at what you get.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if it ever happens where it is a AAA game that is above like what I said Killer is Dead, but above game I told you about earlier. What is it called? Let It Die. I feel like Devolver Digital would be the one to publish it.
Yeah. Because they're like someone who I would say they're like an indie publisher right now in terms of like what they're publishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're also like getting pretty popular.
I'm sure they have a lot of money.
Yeah, they maybe are someone who could and might be interested in funding a game like that. I guess that's that was my thought on it, was like maybe you're not going to like EA is not going to jump down that rabbit hole of saying like we're going to do something weird and crazy. But like there absolutely have been AAA games where someone just had like a weird crazy idea and someone let them go through with it, you know. Like I mean, I need to play Shadow of the Colossus. I haven't, but like that's one that came immediately to mind for me of like that's a really crazy idea for a game, and yet they let them make that, you know. Like there are people who are willing to put real money behind a crazy idea if you can pitch it right.
I don't know if that's even a AAA game, at least when it came out. Because from what I understood, it was supposed to be a cheaper game because like their last game, Ico, was also.
Yeah, maybe that's true.
But it's still a really good game. But I don't know what we'd ever see for a game like that, I guess. There's people have, and I'm sure it's not going to happen, but people have been talking about, they released.
Oh, I lost your voice.
Oh, sorry. Just reading a comment. Deus Ex Fanatic says he just doesn't want any more Battle Royale games. I think we probably have a couple more of those. I think there's a few more people are going to take stabs at trying to dethrone Fortnite.
Yeah. Probably so.
I feel like Overwatch is going to get a Battle Royale mode with the way Blizzard's kind of been slipping. They might just get desperate and be like...
Well, when they released their big workshop feature recently, that was like one of the demos that they showed off was a mechanic where it's like, here's how you can very easily, with the workshop tools, build a Battle Royale.
But, shit, I forgot what I was saying before that.
But I don't know if Overwatch lends itself well to the Battle Royale formula, though. Just because, I mean, I haven't, again, like, I don't think I've played any Battle Royale games, but isn't like one of the big things like finding weapons in them? Whereas, like, with Overwatch, your character loadout shouldn't ever really be changing.
Well, that's the thing, is what if you play as a robot and the whole thing is instead of weapon pickups, you pick up individual parts of a loadout.
Yeah.
So you could have Winston's banana jump and Widow's poison bomb.
Yeah.
Apex is the closest to what I want in the genre. Apex was fun. Yeah, we gave that a try. We got murdered really hard. But as far as a roguelike goes, I'm trying to think of who would probably be most likely to develop it. I just think it's. I don't want to say like I'm in tune with the gamers of today. Is that I just don't think most gamers also feel like, man, I want to spend $60 on a game where I never feel like I'm making progress in it.
Maybe. I mean, if you do it right, though, like if you
Love
have
can
that
be the
mechanic.
right thing for anything if you do it right.
Yeah. But I mean, it's like we were talking about earlier. You can make a roguelite where you die and lose all your stuff, but there still is progression where like your character's stats are getting better or you're finding weapons and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, well, so that's the thing is like, that's what I was trying to say earlier about. I do think there are still large games that are made for niche audiences. Like another one that's occurring to me is like the Persona games. Like those are not a game that I think the vast majority of gamers are going to play,
I
but
don't
they're a
know.
game that a ton of money goes into making, I'm sure. Um,
Like I don't know if I can call that a niche game though, because there is a it's not in America, at least not with 5. Did amazing. Like that sold everywhere.
yeah,
Is in Japan, Persona wasn't a niche. It just that niche is such a big part of the market that it fit right in because they're really big into
yeah,
like
that's
visual
true.
novels.
It just feels like a niche from the American perspective because it's so different from what tends to sell really well here.
Same thing with Monster Hunter. Like Monster Hunter World didn't come. I mean, the previous Monster Hunters didn't really come here because they were thought of like as niches. And even though in Japan, the country like fucking shuts down for a day and a half after those games launch. But
Yeah.
um, the other thing, I don't think we will. If a AAA one ever does happen, I don't think we'll see it for a long time because of the marketing issue of it. Is
Hmm.
one is a AAA game is going to be $60, possibly going up to $70 if trends. Is people will be like, well, this game will have to be so much better than all of the indie options that I have.
Hmm.
And then there might just be the stigma of roguelikes belong in the realm of indie that people might not trust that it will do well. So
Yeah.
maybe after 5, 10 years after this sort of roguelike wave finishes and crashes and settles, then we'll have someone like Miyazaki be like, well, I'm going to make a really crazy AAA roguelike game. And then people are going to go, oh, shit.
Yeah.
And then that game will be the next game to get like added
Hmm.
to it.
I could see actually because
Vibrating.
Miyazaki's from software, right?
Yep. The Dark
Yeah.
Souls band.
Like I real like rogue the roguelite mechanics aren't something that they've played with before, but the fact that they just have a reputation for making hard games, I could see them saying like, we're gonna try this time.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
They could be one of the people who could get away with it.
yeah.
But I
Like
think
I can definitely like I think if they made it and assuming they like put the normal advertising budget behind it, I think people would get hyped for it.
then I guess to play the pooping on the parade man is such a big part of the From Software game formula is environmental storytelling.
Yeah.
Is that procedural generation would just push that off a cliff?
Maybe. I feel like there's ways to do it where you can have like certain set pieces.
Yeah, if you went like the chasm route and were like this thing is always right here, then
Yeah.
it could work. But I think that would just
I
be
mean,
stuff that would happen pre-launch, as people would be worried about that.
yeah. I don't think with like environmental storytelling pieces that it would even have to be something that always shows up. Like I think there are at least are a certain group of people who really like games where the more you explore them, the more there is to learn. And so like if you had a roguelike with environmental storytelling and you couldn't like you would never get the whole background of the story from one run, but like if you're playing a lot of runs, you're finding all these little clues everywhere.
That could work. I definitely also think they just lose a lot of charm if, depending on how roguelike it gets, is that a lot of roguelikes I, except for Rogue, if it went the Rogue Legacy route, like Rogue Legacy always has like the same bosses for those
Yeah,
sections. Because I was thinking like in Enter the Gungeon and FTL, the final bosses for each area are always like randomized.
yeah.
Is
Or
that
at least
that
there's like three bosses that you might run into any one of the three.
yeah, like that would fuck up Dark Souls
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like if you opened the door to Artorias' grave and then it was Pinwheel, you'd be
Mm.
like, what? So, but they
Yeah,
could
I
just
mean that's just like something where you have to kind of balance your bosses around the fact that you know that sometimes the players aren't going to show up with the optimal loadout, or even like often they're not going to.
and then I
So you
guess
put them in a range where they're like beatable by someone who's really good, but more easily beatable by someone who's been lucky enough to find the right stuff for them.
mhm. Although now I think it just clicked with me. I think what the biggest obstacle would be is how when you've played Enter the Gungeon, you haven't played Rogue Legacy. That's not good. How is Rogue Legacy's map laid out? I'm asking you.
Me?
Yeah, like when you how is a map? How does the map of
I
Rogue
haven't
Legacy?
played Rogue Legacy.
Sorry, Enter the Gungeon. Enter the Gungeon
Enter the
work.
Gungeon. Um, so I think the way that Enter the Gungeon works is that the rooms are mostly pre-designed, although like sometimes what enemies are in them are changed. And then like they'll change what doors connect to what places or what rooms show up on any given run.
And that's
So
the
like
issue is rooms.
yeah.
Is like you couldn't have a pre you can have like truly like procedural generated Dark Souls like the woods is because it's the woods. It's an open area. So all you'd
Yeah.
really do is put trees. So it'd have to be like what Let It Die does is you are going through rooms. There's just these narrow hallway rooms,
Mhm.
and that was a big complaint of the game is the environments felt very claustrophobic and small in 3D
Yeah.
space.
Well, and they actually experimented with that in Bloodborne with the Chalice dungeons, right?
Mm-hmm.
And those kind
Well,
of blew ass as a result.
yes, but even the Chalice dungeons, those were like procedurally generated, sort of. Is that it
Yeah.
was like there were four big pieces, and they would just take those out. Like every time you go to this one random level dungeon, there's always going to be the thing where you climb down a ladder and it goes into like a thing. Like that was just always there. So just
Yeah.
small parts of it, but exactly the Chalice dungeons, people those were the least liked part of Bloodborne. So,
I
because
mean, like, I think there is a way to. I think it's doable. It would just be you'd have to work at it a lot and be talented.
like the only sort of game I think that could get away with it with getting a AAA budget would be something like a Resident Evil,
Hmm.
where you are going through doors a bunch. But most AAA games are all about big open space
Yeah.
because they want to show off the skybox and the environment and the graphics. So if it was a bunch of like small rooms with like four doors that go out in different directions,
Yeah. I guess that's like a thing that occurs to me though is like that's part of why that doesn't work in Bloodborne.
mm-hmm.
The procedural generation is because their map design philosophy was built around those like larger explorable areas. Um, but like if you start from the foundation saying like we know that we're going to have a bunch of kind of small interconnected rooms that will randomly change where they are,
Mm-hmm.
then you like build around that and make all of your rooms really cool. Because I mean, I think like I I wouldn't agree that Resident Evil is the only one that could get away with it, but I do think the Resident Evil is like a really smart approach to like here's one creative way that you could make that work is like our AAA roguelike is set in a mansion that's full of zombies and ghosts and monsters, and like you never know when you go through the door at the mansion at the start of the run what rooms you're going to run into or what monsters are going to be in them when you get into those rooms. But at the same time, like if those rooms are crafted with the same level of care as like the rooms in the Resident Evil 2 remake are, like that's gonna be an incredible, really fun environment to explore.
See, that's the other problem is to make a really good roguelike, I think in AAA would cost more than making not a roguelike.
Hmm.
Because to get that impact of the room design you're talking about, they would have to have so many combinations
Yeah.
that they would have to put so much effort into making like 20 rooms for this one type of floor instead of just doing like the 5 that
Hmm.
takes to do. So that would be another thing, is it would have to be a really high budget game.
Yeah.
Is because another complaint of Let It Die is there are like, for the metro station, which is where you spend the most time because it's the first, there's like 7 rooms, and then they'll just sometimes take them and then just rotate them like 90 degrees, and then you're like, I'm just in the double train wreck room, but now I'm up here, and
Yeah.
it gets like, if I had to pay money for that game, I would have been furious. But the fact it was free is different. So
Hmm.
if someone was willing to take the huge bet on making a free to play AAA thing and then did micropayment stuff, but all those, that's just vomit in the ear of gamers. We're like, AAA, free to play, no.
Yeah.
Speaking of, Destiny 2 is going free to play in September, so now we can play Destiny, Robert.
I
Um,
guess that's an option.
but I don't know. I don't see it happening within the next 5 years. I would love to be wrong.
Yeah.
Well, I don't want to be wrong because then I lose my credibility as someone who gets to like guess into the future, and then people will come to watch us because of my expert guesses. But I love being wrong and then being surprised by something that I wasn't expecting. So
Yeah.
I guess it's a
So I
win-win for
guess I
me.
will say this one other thing that I think maybe makes it more likely is at least like maybe we wouldn't consider it AAA at the time that it came out, but like we go on and on, the game development tools that are available to indie producers are becoming like cheaper and more powerful too.
Mm-hmm.
And like especially I think as we have AIs that start to be capable of doing level design, maybe it
That's
gets a lot
terrifying.
easier. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
I
I feel like we're probably not all that far off if there aren't already AIs who are doing a certain amount of level design in games. Like I don't think that's necessarily a distant future.
No, I would definitely that. I think will happen much. I think that will happen before we get the roguelike
Yeah.
AAA game. But I don't know. So we're hitting about 2 hours. So do you have any last things? I think we this was good.
Not that I can think of. Um,
So I guess
yeah,
now we
that
need
was
to
fun though.
decide what movie we're gonna watch next week.
That's true. I gave recommendations last week, so I
You
don't want
did.
to.
I was trying to think of. I was trying to think of some good '80s action movies because we're talking about those with
Yeah,
Will, and he hasn't seen them.
I haven't seen a lot of them either. So
So, because remember we were talking about, you were in the chat. Is have you seen? Have you? Okay, so we talked. You've seen Aliens. You've seen Terminator 2, right?
I've seen like I think I probably haven't seen some of the newer Terminators, but I've seen all the like classic ones.
Okay. Because the discussion of Terminator versus Terminator 2, I think, could be fun. Because you thought Terminator 1 was better.
At least
And you're
like I
wrong.
have fonder memories of Terminator 1 than I do of 2.
Uh,
But it's been a long time since I watched the Terminator
have
movies.
you
So
seen Minority Report?
uh
Okay, that is one I would like to for us to watch.
yeah.
Minority Report is, we were talking about favorite sci-fi movies. That's up there. That's either 1 or 2 with The Matrix.
Okay.
And it's sort of relevant. We can talk about crime stuff, and we can
Yeah.
tie that in with Marvel comics. I think we can do it.
All right.
So
Minority Report it is.
Minority Report, and then what is our gaming topic? The gaming topic, though, I have one, but if you have one, I'd love to hear it.
Nope, I didn't hear you.
Oh,
Voice
sorry,
dropped
I
out.
have an idea, but I was gonna say to kind
Oh
of
yeah,
flip
go for
flop.
it.
Do you have one? So that way,
I remember I thought of one earlier, but it slipped my mind entirely. So
the two ideas I had, one would be more analytical, one would be more just jerking around talking. Is the analytical one was, does a game need to be fun to be good?
Mm.
And the other one was, what are our worst like gaming habits that we have?
Yeah.
Does one of those sound more appealing to you?
I think I'd be interested in talking about whether a game needs to be fun to be good.
So we have Minority Report, and does a game need to be fun?
Yes.
Sounds like a good thing. So
Yeah, I
stop
think
by
that's going to
next
be a
week
great episode.
for more. And I will just put Minority Report in the back. I was like, what am I going to put as the back thing? So thanks to Deus Ex Fanatic and
Yeah,
Dervik for stopping by. It really means a lot. It helps our
absolutely.
channel get a little stronger each time. We're on our way to 3 viewers a day or whatever the thing we need to be affiliates, and now we just need 20 something more followers, and then we're there. We've made it.
We're on the path.
We're on the path. So thanks for everyone, and we'll see you
Yeah.
tomorrow. I'll be starting my Dark Souls 2 playthrough in the morning, and Will be starting his New Vegas playthrough in the evening.
Awesome.
All right, so bye.
Bye.